morning! I am the Friendly Senpai, and today we're going to be talking about Sakamoto Desu Ga, which is a comedy seinen / high school anime created by Studio Deen and is currently still airing. It tells the story of Sakamoto, a cool, suave, stylish high school boy with the looks of a model and the wit of a thumbtack. For all intents and purposes, he's perfect, and he's worshipped by pretty much all of his classmates. This anime covers the day-to-day shenanigans he finds himself in. So, like I said, this is a comedy. If anything, it's an anime that is centered around parodying cliches you see in pretty much every slice of life anime, and some shonens. The biggest parody, obviously, is Sakamoto being the cool glasses character that's seemingly faultless, sort of like Sebastian Michaelis from Black Butler or Kyoya from Ouran High School Host Club. He was almost immediately dubbed Swagamoto by the anime community because pretty much everything he does is with grace and really flashy camera angles, and just general absurdity that is entirely self-aware. Sitting in a window, cherry blossoms float by. He gets locked in a room that's suddenly on fire and he's trapped with his bullies. He comes up with a plan to humiliate those bullies while simultaneously generating enough noise to get the attention of people who can come help them. And every single one of his moves is precise and calculated, which is why it is so goddamn funny to watch other people try to knock him down a peg. You see, there's no character development for Sakamoto because he is the embodiment of absolute perfection. Character development lies with the supporting cast. Each episode, while being genuinely comical, provides some sort of moral at the end, such as having a common enemy can help two people realize that they don't actually hate each other, or maybe how you shouldn't be so dependent on having other people perform tasks for you. This happens because, essentially, what little plot there is actually not so much about Sakamoto, but about the people around him that have a sort of inferiority complex. Because of this, they want to find a way to humiliate him, and he always finds a way to turn it around on them. What? Who the cares about morals and learning lessons? We're here for shits and giggles. And that's what you get. Each and every time someone attempts to make a fool of him or just make him look anything less than perfect, somehow they end up being thwarted. And while we do always know that Sakamoto's going to win, we don't know how. And that's what makes this so goddamn entertaining. The writers did a phenomenal job at keeping the viewers on their toes by creating very, very creative, outlandish, and just sometimes downright ridiculous scenes. Honestly, who would have predicted that Sakamoto would have gotten into a sword fight using a compass against a bee? Or that he'd managed to turn his arm into a saxophone? These are ridiculous, silly scenes that are created and put together well enough to where they don't seem foolish, they don't seem really immature. It's hilarious as and every episode is completely different from the last. So while they have the general, running theme, they're all very, very, very different from one another. And what's interesting is this isn't even my brand of humor, so I normally wouldn't find something like this funny. They also give us insight to what the other characters are thinking, rather than giving us any insight on what Sakamoto's thinking, which is interesting because Sakamoto is the main character, but we never really understand what's going through his head half of the time. It's always centered around what other people are thinking. Alright, so this is done by Studio Deen, so we already know that this is gonna look pretty damn good. Still, this had surprisingly nice art for a school comedy. They went all out, and they even provided some super smooth animation. The world design, for the most part, is pretty simple. There's nothing incredibly outstanding about it, but it has subtle little details here and there, like cracked texture in brick walls, the textures in the curtains, the wood grains in the desks, and even the perforated surfaces of ceiling tiles. That, combined with just enough color to pop, provides the kind of atmosphere that Sakamoto Desu Ga really needed. And it meshed well with the characters, who had a very similar level of attention to detail. But I don't want to talk about just detail, so let's talk about the character designs. Unlike a lot of slice of life and school dramas, we're given a vast array of different characters that are very different from one another. Obviously, Sakamoto is the cool character with the neat black hair and glasses, but then we've got his classmates who wear different types of scarves and hoodies underneath their improperly worn uniform jackets, and there are some classmates who accessorize more than others. Their hairstyles range range from being kept under a beanie, being dyed and spiked up, or being a little long and curly. I noticed that some of the characters had a sort of ombre color gradation in their hair, but it seemed to be more predominant in Sakamoto's female classmates rather than anyone else. And just about everyone had distinct differences in their facial structure, with some characters having more angled features while others had softer cheeks, or some characters having rounded noses while others had ones that were turned upwards. Though I don't understand why this guy is always in his Bumblebee briefs. Why is he naked all of the time? I don't understand. Is this some sort of lost in translation joke that I just don't get? Someone explain this to me. Outside of that, I was pretty impressed with the overall quality of the art itself, like I mentioned earlier. It's crisp and clean, especially with the way the creators chose to outline everything by using thin, non-distracting lines. It looked like they used well-placed shadows to accent edges and curves instead of bolder black lines, which I felt provided a much smoother look. So all in all, I was actually pretty impressed with just how much I enjoyed Sakamoto Desu Ga. It was clever, the cliches that were used were done in a very self-aware manner. The jokes were a blend of subtle wordplay and obnoxious in-your-face slapstick, and just the writing in general was entertaining. Not only that, but the visual quality was exactly what we would expect from Studio Deen, and it featured a cool jazzy soundtrack that enhanced the comedic moments as well as the more somber ones. I mean, I'm not gonna say this is like a 10 out of 10 masterpiece that's like worthy of anime of the year or whatever. Like, it's not full of character development, it didn't leave me in stitches every episode. But if you have the time, I do absolutely suggest you just sit down and give this a try. It's an anime that you can just sort of switch your brain off to and enjoy, and I'm actually very glad that people suggested this because I'm actually kind of excited for like the new episodes to roll out, though I think someone said there are only like, I think 2 more that need to be aired. Anyways, those are my thoughts on Sakamoto Desu Ga. Have you seen it? Which one of Sakamoto's smooth moves did you think were the coolest? Let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, you can find all of my social media as well as my Patreon in the description. Happy unbirthday, and I will see you later. Bye!